7:02. Hello everybody on the call, and welcome to Nicole. I wish we were making introductions in person, but this will have to do for this month. It's so nice to see you.
Your hazing will take place when you're in person.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
No, thanks for joining, Nicole. I know you're out of town. We appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry about that. And I hope you can all hear me. I know my internet is like a little bit spotty right now, so okay, good. I'm glad. Yeah, nice to meet you all. Not in person, but hopefully next month.
So we have every possible person.
This is it. This is our board.
Call.
Yeah.
This is our board. Wonderful. So that takes care of the first agenda item. And then onward to approving last month's minutes. Did anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Do we have any motion?
Okay.
Go ahead.
First, motion to approve minutes.
Am I allowed to second? Yeah. Okay, I second that. We're good? Okay. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak? Seeing none at this time. One of those I can't put it on. Yeah. Slow. Moving on to new business. Katie, thank you for agreeing to offer our icebreaker question this month.
I'm gonna go with what is the best
Was that a
thing that
surprise?
happened? No, I knew. No, I knew.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. What is the best thing that happened to everybody last week? Just last week. Last week.
I know.
The best thing that happened to us last week.
Yeah, I'm thinking what
Yeah.
Set your
was last
parameters, Katie. When does the week begin and end? Sunday to Saturday? 12:01 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. Okay.
But I mean, now the daylight savings, I mean, the standard, I don't even know which time. So I think whatever.
Approximately a week.
We won't
How about
check.
that?
I can go first. Hi, Nicole. I'm Kat. And the best thing that happened to me last week was my kids came home from sleepaway camp, which I can't believe I'm saying. When they were little, I would have given many millions of dollars for them to go away. But now they're a fun age, and I'm very sad when they're gone. I just don't do great with little kids. So they're all older, and I really miss them.
That is funny.
That's good.
The minutes reflect.
Yes.
Many millions
Yeah.
of dollars.
For everyone viewing, I know.
Yes, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Love my children. The same.
That's good.
I think I'm next. Last week we got home safe and sound from our big trip to Prince Edward Island.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was so it was wonderful to get home. It was wonderful to see the dog. Cindy missed her dog very much, but we had a wonderful time visiting Ann World. And we were watching Ann with an E. We're very slowly working our way through because it's much more mature than some of the previous Ann things. And she's very excited. She said, I've never seen that. So that was very exciting. Yeah.
What was the weather like?
Oh, it was great. It was great. I was like 72 every day. And then like I mean, you forget with that kind of humidity, the overnight low was like 65. Like they don't have like huge temperature discrepancy the way we do.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it was beautiful, perfect blue skies. When we left, the last 2 days, we had some drizzle. Talked anything to drizzle. That was it. It was great.
Susie has to look at her calendar.
I am looking, you know, I have to say, last week was not a great week. So I mean, the most memorable thing was we had to put our dog down. And we had him for 17 years.
So sorry.
17 years, we got him when he was 8 weeks.
Oh, jeez.
So my kid's entire childhood, and I was like, there's nothing that was good last week. Like,
Okay, so the memories.
the memories, so I posted, this is my guy. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was when we were watching the Super Bowl.
17.
This was for a few
long
years.
life
Yeah, his,
for a
Yeah,
dog.
that hurts.
yes. And he was really good with my son, who's autistic. And so when my son would have meltdowns, he'd just come and just lean right into it. And he always knew to do that. I mean, he wasn't trained, but he just knew to do that. So it was very emotional and just a lot of, remembering the good times.
Yeah, looking through all of the old photos, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was doing that. So, I mean, that's memorable. It's not happy. We had great happy memories of him. But, last week, I'm sorry, overall really sucked, so.
How's your son doing then? Is he doing
Well,
okay?
he's 19, or actually, he's not 19, he's 21.
Wow.
Okay.
So, yeah, my kids are 21, 25, and 32. So my oldest one was a teenager when we got him, but the other two, that's all they really remember is life with Cody. So that was a challenge. It's hard, but they're adults, and they're actually handling it a lot better than I am. I was a wreck. I was crying off and on. So I'm sorry I couldn't uplift the group, but yep, that was my week.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
thanks for listening.
I was in New Mexico all last week with my husband and 2 adolescent daughters. We were in Airbnb for the first 4 days in a somewhat rural area, Chimayo, in between Santa Fe and Taos. And so we were gone for 7 days. We tried to do like a completely different thing every day. And then the last 2 days we spent with an aunt and uncle of mine in Rio Rancho outside Albuquerque. And I hadn't seen them in about a dozen years. I was very close to them as a child growing up. We all lived in Long Island and all the cousins got together. And so I realized that I'd never really spent any time with them one-on-one, because there was always like a house full of kids and the other grown-ups, and I was a kid. I was so much younger, so they were big, all-powerful adults to me, and to be able to sit across a table with 2 people that I have work friends who are older than they are, and that age gap shrank a lot, and so it was like really kind of getting to know somebody for the first time, a group of adults, and it was a mixed bag actually. It was one of I wouldn't say it was like the best part of my week, but it was one of my favorite parts of my week.
Yeah.
And I think it was a gift to be able to have that experience at this point in my life. But you also hear, you sit around, you tell stories and whatnot, and you hear the adult perspective on your childhood memories, what was really going on. And wow, yeah, I mean,
that I even thought
That's very interesting.
that, you know, everything was always great and harmonious, and then you find out, you know, these siblings aren't talking to each other, and this one's mad at that one. I was like, wow, thank you for keeping that out of my awareness.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, and then it's also like, wow, it feels so normal. Anyway, so that was an unexpected kind of bright spot in my week.
Very interesting.
That's just so funny because I'm going to see my aunt and uncle in Placitas, which is down the road from Rio Rancho next.
That's right.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe some more family secrets will be revealed.
Well, do you communicate
I'll
with
keep you
them
posted.
more often than once every dozen years?
Right? Yes, we do. But I haven't been down there in probably 10 years. They come up.
It's hot.
We'll see them in their natural environment.
All right, cool.
You want to play,
Hey,
Nicole? Obviously,
Yeah, I can go.
getting selected to the board was your highlight, but what else do you have?
Definitely, that email was the like great touch. I mean, I have to say, I'm in South Carolina. I'm on Hilton Head Island, which we go with my father-in-law, and probably, it's always like a little bit of a struggle to travel with my young children, but they were actually troopers on the plane, which was great. And then probably the best moment was last night. We got there yesterday, so last night after dinner, we walked over to the beach for first time of the trip, and we were still in clothes and everything. We just got off the plane and all this, but I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And so they saw the ocean and they were like, oh, you're not gonna want to get, sand in your diaper and all this and all. And they were just like, no, they were both just in the surf, like immediately. And like my daughter was just in her dress, just like, and she was just like a mermaid. It was like sunset. It was beautiful. It was just like this beautiful like image. So it was totally worth all of the strife of having to pack up all that stuff and get it on the plane and deal with cranky toddlers, like, 4 of us and the 3 seats on the plane and all that. So it made it all worth it.
That's really good. I'll follow that one because I was also in South Carolina
Oh, wow.
in Lake Norman, so nowhere near where you are, I don't believe. But it was a last-minute-ish trip with my Pittsburgh cousins. They go down there every summer for a week and rent a house on this massive lake. So it was fun. It was good to see them and get on the boat with the kids and watch them fumble around on the back of the boat on those inner tubes and water ski and stuff. So it's a nice little getaway. It was also good to get back because, man, when you're from Colorado, that humidity is something else.
Yeah.
So,
I can't do that.
yeah, it was great on the boat and inside.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I mean, it was a highlight of the week for sure. So, last but not least.
I feel like I had a very uneventful week last week, actually. I will say the best part that I could think of was making some homemade, basically outer pops, but with the little reusable things. My daughter and I made some homemade yogurt pops, so that was kind of fun to make them with her and
Oh, that's
make
fun.
them. But then they actually turned out really good too, so it was kind of fun. But it's nice and neat.
And they're always fun to me.
We made vanilla and chocolate. And the chocolate ones we made with kefir instead of yogurt, so they have a little bit more of a sour taste, but then they have the sweetness from the chocolate. So they taste really good. They turn out really good. They kind of are a little bit softer, so they're hard. They kind of melt really easily. So I had to really kind of make sure that she wasn't making a huge mess. But they're fun and they taste really good. So they turn out good. And it's always nice to have a cool treat. That's what
Thank you, everyone. That was fun. Do we have a volunteer for next meeting? I'll write it down now. Would someone like to come up with a fun, light question to ask? Doesn't have to be light.
Or heavy.
Easy. Yeah.
I feel like I might be up, but I can't remember. I I can do it.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Remind me the date, it'll be August what?
Oh,
19.
thank you. And the next point of new business is strategic planning.
So that's for me. I wanted to update. I put this on because I don't remember if or when I updated the board on this, but I've been working with my boss and Sandy Cedar, who's done some strategic planning with other departments. This library has not had a strategic plan. I don't actually know when, so it's been a minute, right? And it needs to happen, and it'll kind of be an in-between. If any of you have done strategic planning, you know, it's generally kind of a drawn-out process. You would do community focus groups and things. This will be a little more insular in that sense, but I think it'll be good for staff and the library to give some direction. And we'll do it 5 years out, so it'll be on, we'll do a day with my leadership team here, plus a couple of other staff members, and Jamie, who I invited from the board, so the board will be effectively a part of this too. It's in September. We'll do a day of this, and that'll kind of formulate a plan for us for the next 5 years with some staff input. It won't be finalized that day. After that day, I'll take some materials back for staff here who weren't there to have some input on that, and as far as that goes. So I'm looking forward to that. I think, you know, it's something we need to have. I would love to do, you know, a full-blown strategic plan, but that's just not in the cards, and I can't really wait for something like that. So I just wanted to update the board on that. And obviously, there'll be more to update you with after the fact, but that'll be September 11th, I think. That's it, unless there's any questions about that at the moment. It's just a quick update.
Can you say anything, John, about some of the sources that will be referenced in putting together the strategic plan?
I can tell you the sort of the method that Sandy uses. It's called appreciative inquiry, and it's something I wasn't too familiar with, but she gave me a book on it, so I've been kind of looking through that. It's really a way to envision the future, right? And think about, I mean, the quick way to summarize that is to really think about where do you see yourself in all these years. And I think that the challenge we'll have, given some of the, you know, constraints we've had here, you know, that I think affect staff, right? But mainly budgetary, and so it's hard. I think it can be hard for staff to envision a future. So I'm trying to encourage staff, look, don't think about anything of constraints.
Yeah.
Because you need to think of really, what is it? Where do you see yourself at all without anything that might be a roadblock? And so I think the exercises that she does is to really get people to think like that. A lot of activities and sticky notes on big sticky note kind of stuff. But that's kind of as much as I know right now. She did give me sort of a loose agenda for the day. Yeah.
Any other questions? I could talk all night about the strategic plan, but it doesn't feel like
It's okay.
the moment.
I mean, you know, there's not too much else I don't think to say about it now, but
Yeah.
you know, until we kind of get through it, I'm sure we'll get a lot to talk about. Yeah,
You know,
I know.
Because especially because it's not in the habit life of the library to do this.
Yeah, this will be new for everybody, as far as I can tell. You know, I just need to close email. So I don't know. We'll see what else. Anyway, I think just getting staff together, this team, to really just talk and brainstorm about things that we don't always get a chance to because we're so ingrained in the day.
Yeah.
You know,
That's cool. So it sounds a little bit like it is a retreat.
it's kind of a retreat, and the result of that will be, you know, some form of a plan that we can follow. And what I anticipate after that day is giving staff a week or two to kind of comment on some of the things we talked about as a leadership team, and then coming to the board with that as well. And the structure of it really is, you know, we don't walk out of that day with a plan. We walk out with kind of maybe the main themes of it, and then it's ultimately my job to say these are the themes which form the plan, and here's what we're going to do. So I see myself for sure coming back here. Well, Jamie and I coming back here because Jamie will be there too. So I think that'll be good, and then to have that involvement.
Very cool. Thank you for making this happen, because I have a feeling that you were the driving force behind this for the library. Old business now. Budget.
So just it's sort of another quick, maybe not a great update for you, but I need to share it anyway. So I presented the budget as I do every year to the city manager, and this isn't just the library, I should say, but you know the outlook again is pretty bleak for the city as far as funding. So we were warned about that before we presented, but I presented anyway, and shared everything that I've been saying all along, that we've all been saying all along. So I won't know, you know, at this point it's sort of in their hands. It'll go to council. I think usually when is that? It's usually like in September.
That sounds,
yeah. So I won't really know a whole lot there. I felt like I needed to let the board know that, you know, we might be in the same position we were last year, which is really no additional funding, in some ways less if you think about increased costs with no additional funding. And, you know, I'm trying to find different ways to sell this, but at the same time, I think, you know, anyone else I talk to in the city and most other departments, I should say, you know, they're getting the same conversation from the city manager and finance as far as where the city's at and how much additional they can fund for anybody. I don't know what else to tell you.
Was this a meeting with just you and Harold, or was this your meeting with Jeff? What was this one?
This one, it was with Harold. The way it's structured, and so they kind of organize these. It's a whole day of budget presentations to Harold and his team. So it's Harold, the assistant city managers, our finance officer, and you present that to them, and then they go through every department. So I was there with my boss, Jeff Friesner, and then the assistant city manager, Joni Marsh, who oversees external services, which we are in with other departments such as facilities and parks and open space. So it's a massive day. In fact, it goes over a few days when you get through all the departments. So it's not one-on-one with myself. And then this city manager and our finance officer and really anyone else, but it's mostly those two, or anyone from the finance team that's there that will ask some questions about that. Anything that you have, if they have any. There really weren't too many because the whole presentation meeting started off with you know, Harold explaining where the city was and what it looked like for any additional funding for anybody. So, you know, that was kind of where that was at.
Can I ask, like, what's the rationale that he gave for that? Like, why the city doesn't have any money for arts and culture and libraries and stuff?
For anybody? I mean, and for us. I mean, it's...
Yeah,
I mean, it's... I mean, they talk at least there at a somewhat high level, but it really comes from our finance officer at that point, as far as it's projections, right? What they're seeing that's going to come in through the various taxes that we get, sales, use, and property. And they're seeing a decline in that in projections. And so that's what informs. So they're cautious as far as extra funding, because there's a concern that there won't be actual money to fund those extra fundings beyond what's already in the budget.
Okay, so they make that, they sort of make that projection, and then all of this is then just a recommendation to city council, who then makes the final decision. Is that, I just want to make sure I understand the process.
Yeah, well, it'll go.
It's not a recommendation.
It's not a recommendation.
Yeah.
It's our budget delivered, but the city manager and the finance team will take all of these things from all departments, formulate a balanced budget, which is what they will deliver to city council, and that's what city council effectively votes on. And Susie can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But they basically, at that point, they're not voting on necessarily the details of the budget. That maybe there's some questions about it, but I think it's
and there's some questions. There isn't really an opportunity, as I've learned, for us to kick things back. One of the, as we were preparing, and I'm having conversations with Jim and Harold on the budget, and how can we support underfunded departments. And a lot of it comes back to, we have some initiatives that are supposedly going on the ballot. I think on the referendum 5, I can't.
from the city.
No, the state.
Oh, the state.
Which will have implications. Our initiative 50, I believe, is that the one with the, yes. Under initiative 50, state revenue will increase by approximately 20%. So there's like this whole formula that would reduce the amount that cities would be able to collect, and in an attempt to lower taxes. There's also 108, which is another one that could be, I mean, don't quote me on these because they're very in-depth. I mean, I still have to finish reading through the Colorado Blue Book on it. But the other one was 108, I know, would have impacts for local government, for school districts, as far as how much money they could get. It would bring, we would have a deficit of what we would collect from taxes. And it's state, and it sounds like it's gaining traction among the populace to support this, because with inflation, it's been very challenging for people to be able to afford, and the house prices going up, and then the property tax on the assessed value of the house is impacted what people can afford. So then, of course, they're spending less. Projects that we've had in the queue for several years, it sounds like they're a lot more expensive now because of inflation, because of supply chain issues. I mean, we're still dealing with the after effects of COVID. And I did not realize, as I'm sitting there and they're explaining all these things to me, and my head's about to explode, and that there are a lot of other mitigating factors. And really it depends on what happens, what initiatives pass this fall on the November ballot. So just some of those ballot measures that promise to lower taxes could have a really negative impact on what we're trying to do as a municipality, as well as what the school district and other entities that depend on tax revenue.
Do you think this isn't based on anything that has passed? This is based on kind of projections for what could pass in November?
Some of it is inflation costs. We have projects that are in the queue for that we're promised general fund money. I'm trying to articulate. It's very complicated. I'm trying to present this in a way that's not. I want to make sure I'm saying it right. So while there are things from the general fund that we're supposed to pay for different projects, especially I'm thinking about transportation or roads, public safety, how other barriers have, other roadblocks have come to play, including supply chain issues, inflation, the incrementing costs. So that has had impact to the budget, as well as what the governor has already passed as far as reducing assessed tax value. We have a lot of people who are, I think he opened the door, like some bill he passed that allowed people to go through this process to to fight what if they have a disagreement about what the assessed value is.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of properties that are in the queue to be reviewed where we're not collecting anything from yet. So there's multiple factors, it seemed this year, more than what I've heard in years past of why I think they're wanting to err on the side of caution.
Right.
And something I've asked, and I've seen this happen before, is looking as things project, like maybe in a positive way, can we move those, like do a, what's the word? Move funds from the general balance. So if we find that we have more than what we had anticipated, can we allocate these dollars to different departments as the time comes? And I've seen this happen, in mid-year budget decisions that have come to our desk. So there's, I want to be hopeful that we could, if things work in our favor, that we could tap into that if needed. But it just sounded like there were a lot of different factors that they're weighing in, and they really want to err on the side of caution rather than throwing all this money out there and not having, the anticipated money come down, and we've already committed these dollars for other things.
Right, and we faced this last year too with the prop whatever on property taxes because the budget has to be settled before the election, and so the city didn't know if prop whatever it was 50 or 5 whatever it was, but it was if it passed it was going to mean this much or it was going to mean nothing, because so there are unknowns and the timing is unfortunate. So I mean if so they operate on that caution side, which I mean I can imagine as a fiscal officer you need to do that.
Yeah.
And so we're certainly presenting. I can tell you that our assistant city manager Joni Marsh is 1,000,000% behind the library. She ranked a lot of our funding requests very high up over many other areas within external services, and the rankings help. And if it doesn't help in the immediate, then as Susie points out, possibly after elections and there's a more realistic picture, then maybe they'll look back at the requests and how things were ranked and maybe what can be distributed. So I mean I don't want to say all hope is lost, but at the same time that there's a realistic picture of we're not swimming in money just yet.
Yeah.
Good questions. Anything else?
Well, thank you for explaining it, both of you.
I tried.
No, thanks, Susie. There was no way.
It was so complicated.
I did have a couple of questions. One, I'm just repeating back what I'm hearing, that no increase for next year. This is the second year in a row of no increase.
And I don't know that for sure yet. I don't have an answer.
Expectation.
Yeah,
Right?
it just doesn't look. Yeah.
It doesn't look great, but when we say no additional funding, that includes any sort of inflation adjustment, COLA adjust. It's not no new net funding. It's if we gave you this much last year, then we're looking at that amount. So
Yeah,
it's like-
there's some funding requests that I do, such as maintenance agreements that generally have a percentage increase. And now, I will say a difference in this year versus last year is I'm getting some questions on some of those percentage increases.
Is that coming out of your capital budget?
No, just my
That's just
general.
maintenance.
Yeah. But in general, those do get covered. I mean, but our maintenance agreements, you know, when you look at like our Marmot library membership,
Sure.
you know, that's, you know, I can't remember the exact amount but the percentage I think of this year is a 7 or 8% increase, which is fairly high. But that amounts to, I think, maybe around $8,000 or $9,000 as an example. Other ones are much less. That's the highest. So even if I take all of our database agreements that we have through Gale or EBSCO or whoever, you know, the total of those, if you assume everyone goes up by a few percent, all amounts to less than $3,000 increase. So generally those go through. But there have been some questions this year on even some of those that I did not get questions on last year, which is new. So I'm not quite sure what that means yet, but fielding those questions.
Second question, I apologize for not knowing this, is this is more for Susie, where do the public have an opportunity to hear about the budget process and potentially ask questions about the process?
So, I mean, of course, you can come to city council during public comment. That would be a great time to ask the questions. You would not get a response at that time. A lot of times what happens is, though, if we are hearing these questions and then they come up to us during a general session or the opportunity for council to weigh in, we are asking those particular questions. The other one, you know, we do have an open forum. I was going to announce that during my council liaison updates on the 30th. So you do have a longer time to discuss, but you won't be able to, we won't have any kind of presenting of the budget.
Right, but it's not the kind of environment where you can be like, so, you know, you can ask a question, not about the specific budget for this specific term, but like just the overall, how does this work? Right?
We have like a budget 101.
I think it's a really good question.
That is a
I don't
good
know
question.
what the awareness is on the public side of, you know, when it, like I call it budget season for me, because, you know, and theoretically that's the time, right? And it can be done through boards and commissions for one thing, but.
Yeah, but for residents, just to even come and have an understanding of what the budget.
Right.
Is that
What goes into it?
What
Right,
goes
like,
into
I'll
it,
give you an
right.
example. One of my questions is when the city is looking at, I mean, obviously, you know, it's going to know what costs or expenses are being needed or requested for the coming year. But looking at revenue, aside from like property tax, where are the other sources of revenue? Things like new ratables coming into the city, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, is it just like, oh yeah, you think that we built a Costco and now there's all this money coming in, that's actually not the case, or it gets canceled out because we lost this big thing that closed or is no longer in the city, stuff like that.
So to have a back and forth dialogue, I don't know if there's really an opportunity. We will have, and I pulled up our 2024 budget documents. If you want, I can send you that link that has.
I know.
Yeah, okay. So the presentations to the council, August 29th, September 5th, and September 12th, September 19th. So essentially every week in September, with the first public hearing happening on September 26th. So, and then the second public hearing is October 3rd. So that would be the time for comments from the public.
Okay.
The 26th and the 3rd. But every single meeting starting from the 29th.
It's gonna have some kind of budget.
Some kind of budget component.
Well, like the coffee with council, those dates,
Those would be good.
you can ask those kinds
Oh,
of things.
yeah.
there.
And mine's is the next one with Councilmember Chris.
Okay, cool.
So I'll have to brush up on the budget. Be ready for you.
I think where this is all going
Mm-hmm.
for me, and, I'm curious.
The
what
27th
other-
is coffee with council.
Okay, of this month.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice. That is very good. Sorry. What I'm curious to hear from other board members here is, are there other sources, potential sources of revenue that can be considered in support of the library? If there is, perhaps a temporary reduction or freeze on funding from the city. The only source I'm aware of is the Friends as a fundraising body. But in terms of any sort of, fundraising or revenue generating activity, none of that can originate with the library, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, the museum capital campaign was led by the Friends of the Museum.
Yeah.
So that, it wasn't that the library or the museum
Right,
Right.
initiated it.
right.
No, they might have hosted or had some events at the museum that.
And my assumption that like a donation to the Friends group is the most, the clearest way to earmark dollars for the library and not have it go into a general fund.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
It's its
Yeah.
own. It's its own thing.
It's its own thing. All right. And you had asked, like, not pie in the sky, but how far off, how much of an increase had you been hoping for?
Oh, well, I mean, the full dollar amount increase for everything?
Like the ballpark gap between if there's zero increase and what would be a respectable increase in line with inflation.
I think it was at least I feel like I should know that answer. It was probably around 700,000 or 800,000 total.
Okay.
A lot of it, of course, staffing, but then increases to operating costs, particularly in programming, so that we're not relying on, so that's part of our core budget, just like collections. And that's a big amount.
It is.
I
for
asked
1 year.
alone 100,000 just for digital collections,
Right.
Okay.
just because we don't spend anywhere near neighboring libraries or libraries of comparable size, which is all pointed out in my budget request.
And and I'm almost wondering because how the city looks at it is level 1, level 2.
So the level 1 is that I can't control costs.
Yes.
A percent increase to a maintenance agreement.
Mm-hmm.
The level 2 is everything else you want to add on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's most of what your requests are.
Okay.
And generally staffing is gonna come in there, all these things come in
Mhm.
there, you know, which makes it even more challenging, right?
Yeah.
Because I can't really justify, I mean, in my mind, everything's level one. Right?
Yeah.
Because,
Right.
you know, but that's my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just not the way it's structured.
Mhm.
Right.
If let's just say everything I got was funded, we would be, if you think back to the feasibility study, and it's, you know, at this point that might need to be adjusted a little bit for the dollars it was talking to, but the concept is the same. We would be somewhere in between where we are now and that preferred level of service that it was recommending.
Right.
We wouldn't hit that.
No.
And that was never the goal in my budget request. I'm just
Right.
trying to get towards it
Mhm.
because I don't think it's realistic. I mean, I'm not trying, I mean, I'd love
Yes.
to. I'd love to go from 0 to we're now a preferred level of service library.
Yeah.
But I'm
Sure.
trying to be, okay, look, let's get like let's do a step here in this direction.
Mhm.
You know, that's what I'm trying to accomplish.
But that
That would be
sounds
huge. if we
very
got that.
significant.
Mhm.
That $750,000 is a step. That's
It's a
how
step.
much,
That's how
That's how
far
far
off
we
we
have
are
to go.
from how we should be funded.
Yeah.
right.
Again, for a city of this size.
So I would be curious if there is a number that is lower than that, and it is really just to tread water. Because a second consecutive year of no increase, no adjustment, is a step backward. You will
Mhm.
do less than you did last year,
Yeah.
which is less than you did the year prior.
Correct.
So what would it take to not even advance toward our goals, but to just be able to do the same? Like, is that something that that is knowable? Like, we want to maintain the same level of service and functionality, but it's going to cost us, you know, $400,000 more because of all of the increased costs.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I would look at that is just figure like a percentage total, you know, and then how that's broken down is one thing. But I think, you know, at this point, I think, I don't know what that is. Let's just
I feel like
5%, you know, whatever.
I feel like the rating system does that a little bit too for you. I mean, maybe you can take a step further and do the math for them. I feel like that your prioritization kind of, you know, the highest priority, the mid priority versus, and I guess that is part of what's nice about the prioritization system, at least I think so, Jamie, that then yes, in these lean years where the city has to make hard choices, and they look at kind of middle ground, and I think the priority system kind of lends that a little bit, I would hope.
True, and that priority has sort of a mix of staffing and collections, basically, and a little bit of the programming.
Can I come back, and again, this may totally be my own ignorance, but like, I'm just curious about this dynamic where like, you're basically trying to convince the city managers to fulfill our requests instead of, I thought that the city council was who we needed to convey this urgency to, and we've tried so many times. So have we been like barking up the wrong tree? Is it really these two people who kind of control the purse strings, and we should have been like wooing them all these years? Like, I don't know how I've missed this detail before, but it seems very confusing to me that two people who are unelected would be making these choices. Can someone clarify?
I mean, ultimately, we are the final say-so. But we highly, you know, we heed the warnings of our finance director and our city manager, because they're also looking at the whole scope. And, you know, I think we have, I know, you know, now having Joan, the mayor, involved in the conversations, and having her also be able to talk to to our city manager and kind of be in his ear about the needs. And how, having a robust library and having those connections with youth and community, that does alleviate other problems with public safety, with kids out and about, making mischief, and kind of setting those goals and aspirations for kids to lean towards. So I know that I feel like they're listening. It's really hard. I mean, looking at if the money's not there, and we have to provide a functioning city, we cannot. I think that's where the balance lies.
But you get the final say.
We do get the final say.
Okay, but earlier you said you can't really push back on their recommendations.
I didn't say that we can push. We can't push back. Did I say that?
Well, you said you don't really have a lot of way to change anything about the budget once it comes through to you. That was my understanding, so maybe I misunderstood you.
I think by the time in October, once it comes to us for final voting, it's already, but right now the discussions are happening.
Okay, sorry if I misunderstood.
Okay. Sorry if I.
I just want to make sure that there is still, because I just believe that we have to go backwards, like to Jamie's point,
Yeah. So have you, and I found the document, that's level 2?
Yes,
okay.
yeah, yep, and then that's my ranking.
Your ranking.
Yeah, and then Joni took that plus all the other external services and did a full-blown ranking
Okay, of all
of all of it.
the departments.
That includes facilities, parks,
Yes.
open space, recreation, and museum.
And, so I think, like, for me, okay, so this fall on our ballot, we'll be having a ballot measure on the open space, moving it from where it would expire. The sales tax for that would expire in 2034 was what we had voted back in 2014. Then this ballot measure is going to ask the voters to approve the tax change in perpetuity. That will then free up monies, because then the open space has their own fund in looking forward,
Right.
so, I can't think of the word. my mind is, just the, moving forward. So, then that opens up space and dollars in our budget for other things. And so that's where,
That's a really helpful perspective, I think.
and so in looking at how we can use other means, so not necessarily if we cannot find ways to bring up library revenue through outside sources, how could we bring up outside sources to offset other departments for that general budget? So I think I sit on the steering committee for the core and leads team. So we are currently working on, so we recently received a $750,000 grant for training to do mass casualty threat assessments. So we're doing, so we have staff that's trained on doing the typical threat assessments for an individual who's in mental health crisis, suicidal, but we don't really have a mechanism or the staff capacity and understanding to do a mass casualty assessment. So being able to tap into grants and funding so we can acquire those, those necessary training and money for trained personnel, that's not pulling from our city budget to pay for these things, but finding outside money. So rather than having to, because the need is there, just given the state of our country today, the need is there. But do we pull then from our general fund to be able to pay for these things? Or what are other ways that we can bring in revenue to cover these essential services and training and personnel. So so I'm kind of thinking in the lines of what you were saying, Jamie, as far as how can we look for other sources of revenue. And so for me, in looking at the whole picture, how can we acquire different sources of revenue for other things to free up that money? Does that make sense? Okay.
It totally does.
So that's kind of in the lines of where I'm thinking. And yeah, so, and it's a chiseling of it a little at a time. But it's helpful to know that these items that are in the level 2, that they are ranking higher up among other departments.
Yeah.
Requests.
Is whatever you're looking at confidential, or is it?
No, it was who gave this to me? You gave it to me.
I don't know if I gave you the spread.
It was back in May, and you know what? It was a spreadsheet that he shared with us, I think in the May meeting.
Yeah.
I shared it, but I never put it in the packet. So I'm happy to send
We
out.
all saw it, yeah. It was from the presentation.
Okay, so it's not something new.
No.
It's on it.
It was, I had to go back in my old emails.
Yeah, I was
That's what I was
sharing
looking for.
how I ranked our own requests, and that's what Susie's referring to.
Okay.
Right.
And then this is just speaking of pots of money, but what did Longmont do with the $900,000 in the Bronco refund?
So it went to Children's, Youth, and Families?
Okay, but not the library.
No. We went to Children's, Youth, and Families and then the Youth Council had used that money and divided it up among nonprofits that applied. So some nonprofits received, $1,000, some received $5,000 for activities that they were doing that directly impacted youth and youth engagement.
Speaking of grants, are there grants that are applicable to the library that are eligible for the library to apply for? Is that something that I don't know, and then I don't know if somebody at the city level does that on your behalf or if it's somebody else?
No, it would be us. It would be us here, and we've. I haven't been here too long, but we've applied for and received some grants, not on the level to accomplish things like we're talking about at a budgetary level.
Yeah.
But there are grants like that, right? And they particularly are through LSTA, like the federal grants, where you can really get in the hundreds of thousands to support something. And it's not necessarily out of the picture to do things like that. I do want to be careful about, grants like that should support the level of funding that you have, not doing them because you need it to survive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so,
They're one
and
time.
those federal grants in particular, if any of you have ever been a part of something like that, I have, not here, but in my last job, some of these LST grants, they're extremely involved. And you really need some grant writing expertise. And it's not to say that it can't be done, but I'd rather do that for some big initiative, like in my last job before here, we did it through the state of California, and we got a huge grant, and it gave us these literacy mobile vehicles. And it was a big initiative like that, but it did not include staffing. Right, so we still had to have staff that could drive the actual vehicles. So it's you have to really think about when you do these things. But that's a long-winded answer to your question. But they're out there.
And the other piece, now that you have mentioned that, I had been in conversations with Harold, and it sounds like he's pretty receptive to this. At one of the open house for the fire station, we were talking about the old fire station and looking at how we can tap into existing city space
Yeah.
for even a pop-up library or something
Yeah.
that, you know, we can reach people in different parts of the community.
Yeah.
And, you know, so again, it's just these constantly putting the bug in the ear and just, and helping people really envision that. And then, you know, once they hear it several times, it's like, okay, I can see how we can incorporate that in.
And I think, you know, opportunities like that, existing facilities, or whether it's a library of some sort, or if we can find funds to even get like storage type lockers for home pickup, or anything that expands a service where people see there's a service on their side of town,
Yes.
could really be huge in driving advocacy.
Yes.
And they come at a much lower cost than a $30-some million library in the wrong part of town.
In the wrong part of town.
So I'm definitely behind things like that, and I think that I've heard about that. That's the one on like Hover and Mountain. Right?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. I think those are fantastic ideas because it's there.
It's there. It's already there. And
So you
they
don't
could
really need
still-
much more
No.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, we're still trying to find ways to think outside the box,
Yep.
and you know, I'm still kind of poking.
Yeah.
See what I can
Thank
do.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Nicole, if you haven't noticed, a lot of our conversation is about how to get the library money.
I wonder how many, if you've seen other entities within the city, other departments, maybe like, if a certain number of years that entity has to function without an increase in budget. Like at some point will council or somebody intervene and say, all right, it's been 5 years and, you know, we there's just nothing extra for this group or this institution. You know, we need to talk strategy or approach or something. I don't know. I'm not insinuating, but I want to be reassured that the library is not just at the bottom of the pile.
Since I've been on council, I have seen how council has talked about and prioritized the library. It seems to be going up in priority since the time that I first got on council to where we're at today. So I get the sense that council is listening and understanding the need and understanding how, if we have robust services, this is one of the things that I've really, really tried to drive home being an educator, is when we have those robust programming, services, activities for things for youth to do, they are not causing trouble, they're not making mischief, they're not making poor decisions when they are able to participate in programs, whether it's, you know, the library, museum, you know, children's youth and families, youth center. So how the library can play a role in reducing the number of public safety incidents among our youth. So there is that correlation. And I'm hearing that echo among my council colleagues as well, where I used to not hear that before.
The last thing I would add too, as far as city priorities, there was a lot of talk, you know, with attainable affordable housing, which I don't disagree with, but, or I don't know, and is what I should say. You know, people that would need attainable affordable housing are the very people that need a library. It's proven.
The library
That's a
might
good
even
to add to
help
the
with
argument.
find.
Yeah.
That is how people could find their housing.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, that's how people find their housing. Yeah.
Other thoughts, questions on this very big issue? I'm sure we'll come back to the agenda again.
Yeah.
Other requests for information or things that you would like to see pertaining to this discussion at a future meeting?
I just, one part of the feasibility study, which Nicole, at some point we should fill you in on it if you're not familiar, but basically we were compared to like comparable cities in terms of size and growth patterns, etc. I'm curious if those other cities are experiencing similar financial constraints and how they're responding, or are there some models out there we can point to that are saying like, hey, these folks are also struggling with, maybe pinching pennies, but they are still investing in their libraries.
Yeah, I can do some work in there.
I mean, I don't want you to have another job. Only if
No.
I
have. I have, and it's kind of on my plate again because I want to, look at those numbers again, and it's all there. It's all in the state library. I can pull numbers from neighboring libraries and see what they're spending and what they're doing in comparison. Yeah, and then, Nicole, just so you know, when you're back, I generally do like an intro meeting with new board members and kind of go over the board and things about the library. So I'll do that when you're back. It generally would happen before this meeting, so welcome to the fire hose.
No, that's great. That's perfect. I'm just absorbing it all.
Yeah.
So it's fine. I'll go spend some of it and I'll chat with you.
Yeah.
I wonder if there'll be some content at CalCon in September
Maybe,
around like state of the state libraries. Is that
possibly.
a common feature?
I don't know. I haven't really looked closely at the agenda.
Okay, we are now moving into our reports and information items. John, we just did get you some different hats or
It's the John show.
like a mustache
Always the
or
John
something.
show.
You can
Yeah, put something else on.
Yeah.
Still the same.
Costume change.
Yeah.
Just a few items for my director update. A little bit lighter topics maybe, which will be nice. So, just to let you know, upcoming things. I realize it's only July, but never too early to state. So, in September, particularly, that's a big month in library land because there's a National Library Card Sign-Up Week, and then there's Banned Books Week, and a lot of stuff happens in September on a national level. We'll be doing a pretty sizable program at the end of September on Banned Books Week. We'll do, this will be at the museum. We're partnering with the museum as we have done with some other programs. We will be screening a documentary short that was nominated for the Academy Awards called The ABCs of Book Banning. If you haven't seen it, you should try to see it. If not, come to the program, or either
What
way.
is the program again?
So, that was a question I should have anticipated.
Okay.
It's I'll look it up.
Okay.
I can't talk and do stuff.
I hear you. That's
Still working on that skill.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, it's towards the very end of September because that's when Banned Books Week is, so I can tell you that. We'll be screening it, and then we'll have a panel with a 30-minute discussion on this, including some local youth, to talk about book banning, and in part because the film basically 100% of it is just interviewing these kids in Florida who are facing all these censorship things, and it's a very good film. So there'll be a panel after that, and then a presentation by a group we bring in every year that does readings from the top 5 or 10 banned books of last year, and sort of like an interpretive thing. It's fun, but it's very telling. So more on that, but I just wanted to plug that now. while I was thinking about it.
The date is
Um,
the 29th.
29th, sounds right.
The 29th of September?
Yeah. And then the next week, not related to Van Books Week, but we've been working for over a year to bring in an author, Cy Montgomery, who you may or may not know, who writes both adult and teenage fiction, I believe. And so we finally arranged to bring Cy out here with the support of the friends, as you can probably assume, but that's how we're getting that done. That'll be just the next week, the first week of October, again at the museum. But Cy has agreed to do 2 programs. One will be here at the library in the late afternoon with the Children and Teen Department, and then more of a formal author, reading and speaking at the museum, which is a great venue for these kinds of things. So just to let you know about those. I also wanted to share with you all, I have had a couple of meetings with the executive director of Longmont Public Media, actually, who reached out to me to talk about really kind of growing our partnership that we already do with LPM. Right now, we certainly do our podcasting there. We have a membership as a library. That's how we deliver our podcasts. What is it? It's not every month. Is it every month, Tracy? No.
At least, I think
Maybe it is
bi-weekly sometimes. It seems like there's been more than one sometimes, but.
Yeah, anyway, we do that, but we were talking about what else could we do together. And so I brought in our computer lab team who does trainings, and this is moving forward, I think, in a great way. So we'll be partnering with them for some upcoming technology classes that we do, but this will be in partnership with them. I think the first one will be on cameras and camera use. So I think some volunteers from LPM will help teach that here. I think people will get a tour of Longmont Public Media and learn about the equipment they can borrow. So I think this is great, and I see a good future in this. That probably, well, anyway, I just think it's good. And I think a lot more can be done. It's right here, and it's actually in the library. So anyway, so there's that. That'll be kind of the first thing we do. I think we talked a lot, and something the library's always wanted to do is have some sort of space to have like esports, like gaming, that we really can't do here, but LPM can support that on some level. So we'll talk about that a little bit more, but I think the library's always been interested in kind of diving into that, where people can come to a free place to engage in that gaming that otherwise they might have to go somewhere else and either pay for or whatever. So a lot to look forward there. So some good news there. And then the last thing I thought would be fun to share with the board, a patron story. I always like to share these. One of our patrons who comes in occasionally, but had been looking for jobs and got called for an interview, and it was very fast, and part of the interview had to prepare a presentation, and everything was done through Google Meet. And this person didn't know anything about it, so was coming in and getting help from our own staff on this to a whole new level. I mean, staff were fully engaged with her. I don't know the result of the job interview, but she certainly got an interview and was well prepared for it, and took the time to come in and then write to me on just the level of support that she got from staff on that. She wanted to buy them like a pizza party or something. I said, what would be meaningful? Not that that wouldn't be. I said, I will buy the pizza for the staff if you write to me like a letter sharing your experience, which I do have. And I should have thought to bring that up here, but I didn't get it too long ago. So, but anyway, it's basically sharing what I said and just how needed and beneficial that was for her. And I mean, staff spent really between about 3 or 4 people out countless hours with her and getting her up to speed and downloading software and training her how to use it. And that's just kind of the stuff we do. And it was helping someone get a job. So I thought that was a good story.
And it was with Teams, is that? Microsoft Teams?
No, she had to use Google Meet,
Oh, Google
and
Meet.
there was some requirement, there were some obstacles there, you know, not just for her, but just in general, like, and had to do a slide deck through it, and so we were helping. I mean, I think they were helping her, you know, kind of convert something she had into Google Meet, and it was just quite something. And I mean, I wish everyone could have. Can we see what you're seeing? I'm not showing anything. What do you mean?
Oh, you know what? That might have been the slide.
That's what I was asking about when, the rankings.
Oh,
rankings.
okay, I'm just
We're
looking
getting
at.
it now.
I just saw chat now. Sorry. Okay, got it. Oh my God, am I showing something?
I know. I don't know.
I just assumed it's me. I just assumed it was me. No, I don't know what I was saying. Oh, just God, when she was in here, I mean, she was practically in tears. You know, just.
It's kind of a rough thing to do to somebody in a job interview. Okay?
I mean, it was.
If that were a criterion
Yeah.
for working at a place,
Yeah.
you know, half of my colleagues would lose their jobs.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
a lot of credit has to go through her. Like she was
Yeah.
going to persevere and get this done, but she came here for help.
What pressure?
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
That's awesome.
I just wanted to share, I think, those things. So that's what I got. That's neat for library director.
Do you know right off the top of your head what year the library opened?
Which library?
This one?
In this building? 1992 or 3.
And before that, it was somewhere else, obviously.
It was kind of here, but not this building.
Right.
It was a little bit, and then I don't actually remember what happened. And then before that was the Carnegie, which is LPM, and then before that it was somewhere else.
I think that this is cool. I don't
Yes.
remember an adult
yeah,
summer
I do.
read anything in
Yeah.
previous years. I think this is really cool.
It's this at least the second year it's been done, maybe more.
I don't remember it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think we did a little bit more effort this year on marketing that to get more adults engaged in summer reading, and it's a fun program, and already have some ideas for next year. It may be a similar program, but like basically in prize enticements
Right.
with some people we've talked to, but maybe partnering with some community places to get
Right.
more engagement. But good, I'm glad. Are you doing it? Did you win? You don't know yet.
I don't know yet. It's too soon. I haven't even committed it in yet.
No, I gotta
Wait,
do it.
don't I? Wait.
Don't tell me.
Wait,
I
do I still have time?
There's time. You
I
can.
thought I extended the month.
July
Correct.
31st.
Oh, yeah. July 31st. I have to leave in a month.
Yeah. The adult, I will say, it's almost much easier to join and win. And the kids have much more to do.
Yeah.
I was so excited about the concept last year, and then it didn't happen at all. And I found myself, like, even thinking about it, I had this, like, mysterious resistance. And then I realized that I'm still dealing with school-based summer reading trauma.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Susie's head whips.
Oh, did you feel Lucy like Susie Whitford had to look at you, Jamie? She didn't like to hear that as a teacher.
Well, I don't think this
Trauma.
happens anymore, thankfully, but in my day, you were required to read a certain number of books and you were not given a choice. So it was read these books. And I don't know, I didn't want to be told what to read. So I don't know, there's something, I know that it's very flexible and not serious, but I was like, they had these different, read from this subject area. Like, I don't like that subject.
I can't imagine you having an opinion on
Yeah.
I think that's funny.
Or voicing it. Unsolicited.
Yeah, unsolicited.
Okay, I have nothing to report for the Friends other than they are having their annual retreat on the 22nd. I have yet to confirm that I am invited to be there. So I do not even know at this point what like their
focus is, but I know that they've discussed various things as a focus.
I mean,
I
I
assume,
yeah.
but I don't want to assume. So I have to check in with Sharon and just like, you meant to include me on that email, right? Okay. Did you need me to do anything or just show up?
For what it's worth,
Yeah.
in her email about the retreat, then she followed up to Tracy and I, said, I hope you can join us for lunch. And I just said, well, Tracy and I will be there for the whole retreat as we were last year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. So there you go. I think there's just, there was a change of the guard in the last year.
Oh, I know.
So I think, the previous board chair handled that differently than Sharon. So she may not know, but
Right,
that's why I
right.
say I agree generally with assuming is a bad idea, but in this case,
Yeah.
I think it's fair.
It's the second but
And they did not meet in June, so there really isn't any update anyway.
right.
Yeah.
And I have not heard how they did it in their pop-up, with their pop-up earlier this month, or was it the end of June? They
Yeah,
had
that's a
the-
good question. You don't have no.
I don't know the exact number. It was around 300 total revenue from that sale.
Oh,
Is
okay.
that the one for board games?
Correct.
That was the board game specific one, right? Yeah. That makes sense that that would be lower.
But I do want to revisit with them at some point in the next month or so, what we were discussing here about how we want to interact over the course of the next year, the
Yes.
role of the liaison. Do we want to plan a joint meeting to, just discuss our mutual interests and learn
Yeah.
from one another? I would like to have some solidity, yeah, some
Solidarity.
clarity. Well, we have solidarity with them, but
Yeah.
some clarity around how we can each work most efficiently with one another. Because I find that we're very complementary groups. Anybody have any library profession news?
There's city council.
Oh, there's
liaison.
city council liaison.
How did I just checked on it.
No worries. Well, one of the items that I was going to mention was the open forum, the 30th at 7 p.m. So our whole meeting is dedicated to hearing public comment. I believe it's 5 minutes. I think we
Yeah, it's
extend the time.
something, it's not the
Yeah.
3 standard.
It's not the
three,
standard
yeah.
3, so it's 5 minutes, and then it gives us opportunity to be able to respond as well, so, yeah. So if you had anything you wanted to bring forward and ask of council as well, so we have to respond back. So if you're wanting to hear from certain individuals on council, the 30th is the time.
And that's what makes this different than your average
Public
public
comment.
comment, right?
Yes.
Because you don't respond in
No.
time with those, but this
Yes.
you can or you,
can,
do.
yep,
Yeah.
we do. And so that'll be on the 30th. The other issue that was brought forward to us, so Councilmember Martin has been joining us virtually. Her daughter is in New York, and she is struggling with some health and mental health. She did share those two pieces publicly. And so Councilmember Martin is over there right now, and she's been there since May. So I don't know if we have any Ward 2 members. Okay.
Yeah, Candace.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'd really like to hear how Ward 2 people, especially, feel about this. During her statement at our last city council meeting, she had said that her intention was to fulfill her office at least through the end of this year. And then maybe come back during key voting times during the budget to vote in person. But then afterwards, if her situation is not improved, that she would step down. According to our charter, then because it's more than 90 days, we should be looking to appoint an individual. I was very frustrated with how the process happened the last time, in that we had that vacant seat for a long time. We were supposed to have a special election, but there was a change in Boulder County in their staffing capacity, and we had a new person who was leading the elections, and they didn't have the capacity to do a special election at that time. So it was kicked back to us, and so we ended up having to wait. We really should have appointed someone at that time, but we didn't, and it was very challenging because we were a 6-member council. And and then of course, if we end up splitting the vote, the 3 to 3, it dies. The motion dies. So that had brought some challenges. We don't want to see that repeat. So tomorrow we are going to be having the discussion at depth during our pre-session prior to our housing authority meeting. And it sounds like the mayor's asking us to make a decision. I'm getting emails from Ward 2 residents. Some are saying she needs to step down. It's going from that all the way to please let her, be flexible, let her stay the course, have her be the person who makes the decision on this. And then we're kind of caught in the middle because we are the deciding body. So I don't know if anyone has any questions, concerns, or thoughts that they want me to consider tomorrow.
I mean, I'm assuming there's nothing in our precedents that relates to virtual voting or virtual presence, right? This is kind of the first time this has come up.
The virtual piece, yes. Because prior to COVID, she would have had to step down.
Yeah. So I guess, we're sort of, I guess my only thought about it is just whatever happens is probably going to be a precedent.
Mm-hmm.
So we should maybe think about it, certainly sensitive to her personal needs, but also like as a policy going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, you said the end of her term would have been when?
November of 2025.
That's right, okay. Yes, so she's basically saying like she'll call it in January just for her own, like, just to know one way or the other, sort of?
Yes.
That was her approach to it, okay.
That's what it sounded like in the statement she read.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what, was reported in the paper. So, I mean, I guess, I don't know, for whatever it's worth, my own personal opinion is, I would say, I think flexibility is a good thing in general, and it certainly allows more women to participate in municipal government in general, as caretakers often. So I have a lot of empathy for her situation.
Yeah, I do too.
I think, but I also think like, if she's really not able to attend all of the functions virtually, then that's not really workable.
Yeah.
So I guess it's, from your perspective as a working member of city council, you know much better than from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
How many things is she actually able to get to that she needs to be at versus really she's not able to, be in touch with not only her constituents, but also with just all of the information you're constantly being given. And there's different ways to get information, but I don't think that you can replace like full meetings with just like a recording or an email minutes or more than here and there, I guess would be my concern. So,
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
I am gonna echo what Kat said, but also add that you all are part-time city council. You have jobs, you have day jobs. Nobody is supposed to be putting in 40 to 60 hours on this. So to somehow act like because she has a family emergency, she can't manage city council is unrealistic of the expectations of a part-time city council.
Yeah.
And I think that's really unfair.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick on Bonnie Finley just because she no longer on city council, but you know, at my job, we often invite city council and she would often send apologies saying that like she only gets so, and she worked in Denver, and she only gets so many days off and she has to offer, you know, she did so much of her city council stuff in the evening, but if I would invite her to a tasting event, yes, I mean, like there's an expectation of kind of interacting with your constituents, but like she couldn't do it unless it was in the evenings because she works for, and that was okay, that was acceptable. So it feels a little like, yeah, icky to expect her to step down because of that.
Yeah. I don't want to be that person or that kind of council.
No.
That we are forcing a decision. Yeah, that doesn't seem right. I think for me, it's really understanding what constituents, you know, what the perception is. So then, of course, any decision we make is in line with what the residents are asking us to consider.
And in your conversations with constituents, it may be helpful
Mm-hmm.
to really distinguish the two pieces of
Mhm.
this question.
Yes.
There's the hybrid aspect,
Yes.
right? Allowing a council member to participate in a hybrid capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the demands that a prolonged personal
Yeah.
situation or challenge
Mm-hmm.
may pose. And to
Mhm.
me, they are separate, often
Mhm.
coexisting, but
Mhm.
separate issues.
Yes.
And I hear them get bundled a lot.
Okay.
That, you know, if somebody is somewhere else doing something else, I want to say, well, what if this is upsetting to you, or it feels like you're losing out in some way?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that's bothering you? Is it that this person is not physically here,
Mm-hmm.
or is it that they either in reality or in fear you think that they are not able to be present, you know, with their full attention and
I tell you,
connection?
she participates.
Right.
She participates and she answers her emails. So.
So if you're participating fully and you're just not in Longmont,
in the space, yeah.
that to me feels like a different
Mm-hmm.
thing to decide, a different decision to be
Okay.
made
Uh-huh.
versus someone who, you know, is not responsive,
Yes.
is not able to interact with the public or answer
Yes.
questions and
Mm-hmm.
or stay informed on the issues. Right? So, yeah.
And I would just add maybe like, you know, if she decides to move her residence, right? Or like at what point, how many months do you live someplace before you become a resident somewhere
Yeah,
else?
and I
You know,
think
like-
in the state of Colorado, or I think it was 180-ish days, 183 or something. So she hasn't been out of Colorado that duration. Now, if she ends up staying into next year, then that will be a factor of residency. And then there is, you know, the legality piece of it.
That's just a legal issue then. And I think that is, you know,
Residency,
That would-
and then that would go beyond what council would say, or even the residents would say.
right, you would just have to.
Okay, but no, this is helpful, because I wanted to make sure that any discussion or any input that I gave was in line with what residents, especially Ward 2 residents, want or agree with. Because again, I don't want to assume, so. Thank you, so. And are there any other questions about that? And again, it's budget.
Yeah.
So if you want to come and ask questions about the budget, the open forum could be an avenue. You wouldn't necessarily, you would get your specific questions answered, but you wouldn't have like that 101 to budget and how funds are allocated. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Library stuff, professional stuff. Awesome.
Well, I can, in case anyone hasn't seen this, you know, in the realm of budget, the city of Loveland is in big trouble, the library. They had, in last year's election, and this is, I hear something that could potentially happen in Longmont, but they passed something that removes sales tax from any grocery items.
Where does this happen?
Loveland.
Yes.
And
Yes, they did.
And of course, like Loveland, you know, this library relies heavily on sales tax. So it's impacted that library, and they were facing as much of a 50% cut to their budget. And the last I heard from the director there is the council proposed a 36% cut. 36. And that's still not final. It could still go up to 50. But what this is going to mean, at least in part for that library, is you know, certainly some layoffs are going to happen. They're cutting all programming except for some essential programs. Their collections are getting a deep cut. They will be the only digital product they will have at all are ebooks in the same front range digital library that we are a member of, which is, you know, also good for us that they're staying in that, because that could have impacts on us. But just to let you know about that, and it's something to be aware of, because there's been some chatter in Longmont about trying to get something similar on the ballot, and so you can see in Loveland what the impacts are happening there. And every department had to cut, by the way. But so bleak news from library profession news, but you know, it's worth knowing about, I guess.
This is just something I've seen reported. I should double check it, but I did see someone reporting that Project 2025 does call for imprisoning librarians and teachers who, you know, allows students to access certain books. Apparently it's page 5. I haven't double checked it myself, but
I've been hearing. When can I retire?
Yeah, no, I have looked at it.
Yeah.
And there are that and some other potential very serious impacts to public libraries if that were to move forward in the way that it was written. There's, yeah, I mean, if you aren't aware of it or you haven't looked into it, you can easily look it up and see. But it's another topic or another item out there that's worth paying attention to. I think Cynthia, on her last day, she didn't bring this up in the board meeting, so it was after the board meeting. Now I'll share it officially in case anyone here is not aware. So unless there's other topics, we can end this profession news with something positive. Well, you know, the Friends were nominated. Our Friends of the Library were nominated for the Colorado Association of Libraries Volunteer of the Year Award for the state, and they won. And so they will accept that award at the Cal Conference in September. Yeah, and I'll be there for that. Tracy's going through the whole conference, and then the board chair and vice chair are planning to attend to accept the award. And then my communications person is writing a press release for that, so we'll get that out in the news, and I think that'll be great all around. That's just good news to share.
And maybe
And
like
well
an
deserved.
interview
I would
podcast
love for
with
that.
LPM.
Yeah, I mean,
Interview section.
yeah. The press releases help because then that gets hopefully some interest, but
Yeah.
we'll see. But yeah, it'd be great to have something out there about that more than this.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
For the friends and everyone, the community.
Oh yeah. And that's all I have from library landings.
Well, that's pretty positive, so maybe we
It is
should
good.
just end it there.
Let's do.
Board comments?
Nicole, this is an opportunity to say anything in the world that you want. You may not want to tonight, but just so
I'm sure I'll have plenty of questions. Next time I'll be there in person. I'm already committed. It's under the calendar. We're good. No, but otherwise it's like 11 o'clock here now, and I am
Oh,
done. I'm crispy, so I will have to save all my questions for later.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for hanging in there.
Next meeting is the 19th. Yay. We have a better shot of achieving quorum now.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's it. If we don't have to talk about dates, meeting dates beyond that. Next month we'll talk about the fall. Try
Right.
and
Yeah.
confirm them. Okay, everybody, we will adjourn at 8:44.